Welcome to Pagan Crafting. I'm your host, Kara. Today we're going to make some tarot card decor art. We're going to use the art of paper Tole. Paper Tole is a fun little art where you use layers of paper of the same image to create a dimensional piece of artwork. So we're going to rock this today. I'm going to show you how we're going to make this cool new decor art for my reading room. Join me today and let us have some fun. So what we need is a 4-piece wooden signage, 2 tarot decks, Rider Waite. You can get a pair of decks from Wish or Temu, super cheap. I'm going to grab 4 charms, 1 for each of the tarot suits. You can grab some jute twine. I'm going to grab some leather later. Some silicone, silver pen or silver paint, cutting tool. We're going to grab some paint brushes along with paint, gloss Mod Podge, and some scissors. Since I'm not going to be hanging it profile, we want it landscape, I'm just going to take off the cord that's already there. Each one of these sections I'm going to color coordinate with each of the tarot suits. Starting off with blue for water, and then I'll go for green, and the water's for chalices, the green is for pentacles. The purple will be for air and the swords. And the orange and red will be for fire for wands or rods. Just doing just an easy progression of paint going from darkest to lightest. And don't forget to paint in between your signage as well. Now we're going to grab our Rider Waite deck and we're going to look for the aces. Pull out all your aces. Now you see here I have 2 decks. Now one came a little bit richer in color than the other one's a little lighter. So I'm just going to pull out the best card. I'm going to put the best card at the bottom first. And I'm going to use the lighter card for my piece that I'm going to cut out for my paper Tole for my 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional effect. So left with the lighter colored ones, they're just a slight difference, enough that I could notice. We're going to trim off all the white. And you could choose to keep the with or without the wording underneath, Ace of Wands, Ace of Chalices, Ace of Swords, whatever you'd like. I'm going to cut that off. I wound up keeping them all later just in case I wound up reusing them. So I cut off all the wording and kept that. Now what you want to do is you can either use an X-Acto knife. My cutting board is on order. I ruined my last cutting board with hot glue, so I cannot use an X-Acto knife right now, so I'm going to have to use scissors. But I'm telling you, X-Acto knife makes it really tight, makes it really good too. So I had to switch to some super sharp shear scissors to make this work. And I'm cutting out the bottom too. I decided I'm gonna pop out the bottom. Now this paper tool is usually done with like 6, 10, 15 layers or more kind of thing. The more layers, the better it'll look. I'm just going with 2 layers because I'm having to buy 2 decks just to make this. So I didn't want to buy 10 decks to make 10 layer deck card. This deck really only has a few layers to it anyways, probably like 4 or 5 to each picture. Now this one I wound up taking a little bit longer, wound up cutting out the water, wound up having to use a bit of X-Acto knife with that, carefully cut it out on my table without trying to cut into it too bad there. But it popped out pretty good, I'm happy. Oops, I want purple with swords for air, and I want water with chalices or cups. Now I was just playing around with some configurations, what would look cool. I like that. If I wasn't laying down the charms with it, I probably would have gone with that. But I have the charms, and I also would like to add the astrology symbols for each. Alright, so next what we're going to use is some Mod Podge. We're going to use some gloss, because I love how this is so nice and shiny. At the very end, we're going to coat everything with some Mod Podge. I'm just giving this a little score. I find sometimes Mod Podge doesn't want to stick onto some acrylic paint ever so often, so I don't feel like taking that risk. So just scoring it like you would do your clay when you're sculpting. And I'm so glad I'm painting the whole thing with glue because I dropped it. My goddess. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We're going to paint the whole thing, so that's not going to be seen that I'm going to have a shinier amount on one spot. Oh my goodness. So you just want to do that for each one of the cards. A really good, healthy amount of glue. It's totally fine because these are cards. They're going to take it. They're not going to wrinkle on you. Looks like I had a little bit more to trim off the end there to make it look just right. Oop. Now after you're done, stick them all down, give them a good coating of the gloss Mod Podge. And that's going to help seal it in, and it's going to help look it's super shiny, and it's going to look awesome that way. After that's all dried out, I'm almost dry. Looks like I still see a little bit of white glue. While that's drying, I'm going to take these charms and I'm just going to snip off the hoop that goes on to make your necklaces or your bracelets or whatever you'd like. Just switching over to a smaller jeweler. I thought I was going to need a heavier one, but these snip off a lot easier than I thought. Now I was thinking about taking off the top, so just looking at it, and I decided not. I think it looks cool the way it is. Now this was supposed to be clear silicone. I'm not impressed. Even on the bottle it says clear when I got it, and it's white. We're gonna have to make do with what I have because it's pretty late at night when I did this video and everything was closed. So pretty not impressed that it was white. So we're hoping that it's not going to be too noticeable. And it was very sticky in a wrong way. So I really could not use the thin amount. I'm going to do some more paper towel with some proper clear silicone where it'll grab the paper a lot better. This one's not grabbing either. It'll be a lot easier with the clear silicone. You can buy them in these little tubes. You don't have to get the great big chalking ones. And what you want to do is you want to build up a little bit of a layer, a space around it. So don't squish it down with your finger. You want to have that space of the silicone between the paper, the two layers of paper. And that's going to create your three-dimensional pop-out look to it. And it's quite forgiving, the silicone. It's not like glue, so if you very gently, very lightly handle it, position it where you want it before you tap it down as I'm doing here. And when you do tap it, it's ever so slightly. If you push it down too far, you can quickly lift it with some tweezers and it will still be fine. So you see here what I'm doing, I'm just sticking it on and pulling it up to give myself a bit of a raise in the silicone. When you use a clear silicone when it's fresh, you could use a minuscule amount on the edge of a toothpick and it'll still stand up and stay for you. This product I'm using is not the best for this demonstration. But I promise you I'll do a really cool paper tool. I have one planned out with a really cool witchy vibe to it. So if you do get some silicone on the paper, I just use you can use a toothpick, a bit of a skewer or something, and just scrape that off because you've already done the clear coat, so it'll actually be quite hidden. It'll be easy to take off. And there's our little pop-out effect. It's going to take 24 hours to dry, so don't touch it for a while. We did quite a thick amount here, a little bit more than I normally would have. But now's the time you can make any little adjustments as it's starting to dry a little bit. I'll start balancing out and straightening it out, little adjustments here and there. All right, let's let that dry. All right, next up, we're gonna lay down our charms. I'm gonna use some Gorilla Glue, it's like a gel super glue. I don't want the glue to squish out on the side, so I thought this glue would be probably a little bit better to use. I didn't use hot glue because I don't want to see the glue blob squishing between the pentacle either. So I thought this glue would be pretty fantastic for this. All right, so on to our next part. We have my little simple tarot journal here. I use this to when I was just writing down stuff for classes and ideas and just taking notes, and every time I learn some more, I just add more and more and more to it. But we're going to add the zodiac sign that corresponds to each tarot suit. So you can use a silver paint metallic marker or a silver paint pen. I'm just going to use some deco art metallic. I do prefer this paint because it goes on with like one coat. You don't have to do a couple layers. I find the cheaper the paint is for the metallics, the more layers you have to do. So as I start to paint this, I have to tell you that I wound up not being completely savvy with this when I was completed. I made the zodiac symbols too small. They didn't have enough flair to them, enough stylized flair. They were too simple, and I'm gonna paint over them. But I'm gonna show you what I did because maybe you might like it, and maybe this is something you may like to do. You can just expand on it, make it better because it's not very good. Oh my god. So I'm not completely happy with it, but I'm just gonna show you the process. And what I did is I did an outline here about just try to fix it, try to save it somehow. So I did a fine lining which helped punch it out, but it just looked so childlike. So I didn't care for it at all. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna fix this. I'm gonna paint over this and get rid of it. So I'm gonna start again. I didn't actually air this video for a while. I was so unhappy with this that I decided to paint over this, redo this video, put in the clips, make this work again, do another voiceover and fix this. And I'm so much happier with the outcomes as I am, as because you're seeing it right now. So just bringing in the layers there once again and try to blend it in as best as I could. And trying to hide the zodiac symbols underneath. I did have to do a couple layers on the green and the orange, I believe, where they were popping out. Now, while this all dried, I wound up doing a black border around everything, top and bottom, just to hide the bad paint lines and any glue marks. So what I've done here, I've printed out on a piece of paper just some font that I picked off my WordPerfect program, picked out the size that I'd like, the font that I'd like, and I'm going to line it up here on each corresponding elemental. Using some painter's tape, so that way my paint won't get wrecked when I peel this off. Don't use masking tape, painter's tape will be perfect for you. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a graphite paper. This graphite paper is going to help me transfer these words onto the wood, and then I'll just be able to trace it out, paint it out, and it'll be super easy and I won't have to do it freehand. One thing I learned, I'm a retired tattoo artist. One thing I learned is never, ever, ever freehand lettering. You're always going to screw it up. So using our graphite paper here, just slipping it underneath the paper. And I found out what works best is using a pen. You can use a pencil, but you'll have to keep sharpening it during it, and it'll start to thicken out some of the lines. So if you use a pen, and if you use a colored pen, you'll be able to see where you were. So you don't miss anything when you're stenciling something out. You can use a nice fine point metallic silver paint pen or like a Sharpie metallic pen. You may also use gel pens if that'll work, transferring onto wood or your paint, possibility. But I like to use just a simple super fine line paintbrush. Now you could use white, black, or silver on this, but depending what color purple that you use, because my purple's super dark. So if I went with a black paint for my lettering, I'm gonna lose it. The silver, I may be a little bit too lost on the blue, not quite sure. So I'm gonna go with white. Now we have the chalices here. The chalice are ruled by water, and the pentacles ruled by earth. The swords ruled by air, and the wands ruled by fire. I love this little art deco. It's gonna go up in my tarot reading room. Throwing down the date when I made this on the back of this. It's kind of cool to remember. And I want to be able to hang this now. So you grab a piece of twine, of rope. I just have a piece of faux leather here that's left over from another project. So gluing this down. I should have trimmed off the end first before I glued it down, but you know, live and learn. Because now it's coming out of the glue and I have to cut it again. Boop. So easy peasy, however you wish to hang it. I just hot glued some rope on the back here and we are good to go. Well, thanks so very much for chilling out with me today. As always, it is a pleasure hanging out with you. I like my little tarot card art decor paper tole piece, whatever we want to call it. And I think it's a nice, cool new addition to my tarot reading room. Yeah. Well, throw me down a like up and ring that bell, and so you know when the next video comes out, and I want to wish you an absolutely magical day.